on BBC Radio 5 Sports Extra.
And a very warm welcome back. You're listening to live coverage of the third round of the Formula One World Championship, and the circus arrives at pretty much every driver's favourite circuit. We're in Japan at the iconic Suzuka. Cherry blossom season in full flow, the pinks of the trees surrounding the circuit. Temperatures a little on the chillier side, just under 14 degrees. Track temperature at the moment just under 35 degrees. Expect that to warm up as the session gets going, and that session ahead of us is free practice 2, our second practice running of the day. We had FP1 a little earlier where Lando Norris and McLaren ended up fastest. Let's see what unfolds over the next hour or so, and guiding you through the coverage is myself, Harry Benjamin, and alongside me is the racing driver Alice Powell. Now, whilst Norris may have taken the headline time from FP1, all eyes, Alice, were on Yuki Tsunoda and how the Japanese driver got on in his first session as Max Verstappen's teammate in the Red Bull, and he actually had a pretty promising start to his life as a Red Bull driver.
He did. He was just a 10th off his teammate Max Verstappen, and I would say that's the closest so far this season that the second Red Bull driver has been to Max Verstappen. So very positive start. Christian Horner said after the session those exact words. Very positive from Yuki Tsunoda. We're looking to build on that. They know that there's still pace to extract from that Red Bull, and yes, he'll be very pleased with that. His words at the end of his radio message to his engineer was good sesh. In the words of Yuki,
solid sesh from Yuki. We'll chat more about that situation as the session gets going, but it really is a beautiful day overhead in Suzuka. Blue skies interrupted by some white puffy clouds, but the coats are on in the grandstands because, as I said, that temperature is a little on the chilly side. But there is a reason not only the fans flock to Suzuka, but every single driver raves about it. What is it about this circuit, Alice? Because it's quite a unique one in terms of its layout, but it does seem like it's just one of the friendlier tracks for a driver.
It's just the challenge is the main thing, Harry. You've got a variety of corners, but in particular the most favourite, of course, will be in Sector 1, the famous S's. So coming out of Turn 2, you go then quickly into 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to the Dunlop curb. And that is just fantastic. It's like being on a roller coaster, and you're right to the edge of the limit. You're being thrown to the left, thrown to the right in the cockpit, and then you've got Degners, so that's on the edge. It challenges every single driver. It favours the brave going through 8 and 9. You've got the slowest corner on the track, which is turn 11, and then through into Spoon, and then up to the famous flat out 130R. So some high challenges. Also big challenges in terms of tyre degradation as well. We've had the newly resurfaced Sector 1, which actually has seemed to favour the drivers. They said the grip's pretty decent there. The time is faster than we saw last year. But it's a high tyre stress, so there's a lot of stress on the tyres. So it really makes a challenge for the drivers to deal with the degradation through the race. Do you, in qualifying, give it absolutely everything and use all the inch of the tyre in that first sector? But then if you do, your tyres are screaming by the end of the lap. So it's one of those that you've got to juggle as well during qualifying. But a big favourite, not just for the drivers, but also for the fans as well.
Yeah, a figure of 8 track, 18 turns, 10 to the right and 8 to the left. But as we were saying, from turn 1 all the way through till turn 8, it has been resurfaced ahead of this weekend. Let's bring in the BBC's chief F1 correspondent, Andrew Benson. Andrew, what do you make of the resurfacing? I think I butchered the title there as well. It's been a while.
Yeah, you got 2 job titles joined together there, Harry. That was quite yeah, so I was actually talking to George Russell in between the sessions, and he was talking about the track resurfacing. As you say, it's the whole of Sector 1 basically, and it's the typical new Formula 1 smooth tarmac that they use, asphalt I should say, and basically that tarmac or asphalt, the way it works is it means that as the tyres as you drive on the tyres in the long run, the car doesn't get any slower. In fact, it speeds up. But then when you run on old tarmac, the degradation kicks in and you lose quite a lot of time as the tyres get old. And you saw this in Spa last year. The track was resurfaced over about 75% of its surface, and that's what shifted that race from a two-stop into a one-stop. And if you remember, Russell won that race on the road on a one-stop before being disqualified. He was saying that the new section's much quicker than it used to be. And had the whole track been like that, it would have been an easy one-stop on these three hardest compounds of tyres that Pirelli have brought to Japan this weekend. But as soon as you go on to the old tarmac in the long runs this morning, so you'll be gaining time as the fuel load comes off and the tyres don't wear in the new section, but then as soon as you hit the old tarmac in the old section, you're losing time again. So it's going to leave the race on the cusp of a one and a two stop, and to make a really interesting strategy decision. He was also saying, Russell, it was quite interesting from looking at Mercedes long run data, although Yuki Tsunoda had a really impressive first session in the Red Bull, was only a tenth or so off Max Verstappen on a single lap pace. On the long runs, the Red Bulls were a long way off the pace. I think Tsunoda was something like 15th fastest of all, although Verstappen himself was only 12th or 13th. So still a lot of work for Red Bull to do, even if that wasn't quite so obvious on the one lap. But so we'll have to see how this new old tarmac situation develops through the weekend.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Really intriguing to see how that will unfold. And yes, on Red Bull too, still with struggles as they try and work out how to maximise the machinery that they have underneath them. They have brought a few upgrades this weekend. They got a new engine cover. They have listed that for reliability purposes, and then the same for their rear corner. And in terms of searching for performance, some new bits on their rear suspension. But we've got free practice 2 underway then. Green light on at the end of the pit lane. Cars already out on track, and for those who wish to do a sync up, it's 58 minutes. I'll do that again. It's 57 minutes and 57, 56, 55 seconds remaining of free practice 2. Now, let's go back, Alice, to the Yuki Tsunoda story, because that is the biggest story of the weekend. And as Andrew said, well, let's hear from Sainz first.
Something is wrong with the car. It's bouncing like crazy into turn 13. Check rear heat.
Yeah, we're checking.
That's Carlos Sainz on the radio, not happy with the way his car is bouncing on the way through turn 13. That's coming into Spoon Curve. So he's being wheeled back into his Williams garage, which this time he has parked outside and found the right place in FP1. He drove straight by it and forgot where it was. Had to do another lap. 57 minutes and 12, 11, 10 seconds remaining. This Tsunoda-Lawson story is another example, isn't it, Alice, of the brutality of not only Formula One, but of Red Bull as well, as we're just hearing a replay of Carlos Sainz making his way towards the fast left-hander of 130R, where
that does not look comfortable.
No, he's bouncing there as well. He said turn 13 on the radio, but that's also 130R making its way through a couple of fast high-speed corners then that Carlos Sainz's Williams is not looking very comfortable with. But the brutality of this move from Red Bull on Tsunoda and Lawson, how important is it for each of those drivers to have a support network around you? Obviously, it's great for Tsunoda, but he's conflicted because he was passed over originally for the seat, and it's a slam dunk demotion for Liam Lawson.
There's two very different feelings in amongst the Red Bull camp as a whole, including the Racing Bulls. Lawson being demoted, probably feeling pretty low when he received the call that he was having to step out of that main Red Bull seat and go back to where he first started when he joined in Formula One. So tough for him, but I feel like he'll be feeling pretty determined, although confidence will be a bit low. But as you touched on, that support network that he will have around him, they will just need to try and keep him as positive as possible. Make sure that he focuses on the job in hand, and that will be arriving here in Suzuka, maximising every opportunity he can. He knows the team. Okay, the car's slightly different from last year, so he doesn't fully know the car, but he knows that the car is pretty decent. So that should give him some confidence. And the fact that he's still in Formula One, he's not been chucked out altogether, which is what one or two of the other drivers, including Ollie Behrman, said during the press conference the other day. And then you've got, of course, Yuki Tsunoda, absolutely thrilled to receive that call, giving that promotion to step up. Now's his chance to really prove to everyone at Red Bull why they should have picked him in the first place. Of course, there's pressure on his shoulders because we all know with that second Red Bull seat, you're up against Max Verstappen, one of the best drivers that we've seen in Formula One, in all of Formula One's history, in my opinion. So it's a tough seat to step into. They know that the car is not where it should be this year. They know that it's hard to drive. Even Max Verstappen said this car is hard to drive. And he also said that Liam Lawson shouldn't have been demoted so early. But Tsunoda said, bring on the pressure. You know, and pressure is a privilege. Certainly when it comes to racing in Formula One and into sport. But again, Yuki will have the right people, or should have the right people around him to help with that pressures, and most importantly, again, focus on what he can control, and that will be wringing the neck of that Red Bull car.
It's a massive chance for both drivers, isn't it, for Tsunoda to show what he can really do, and actually for Liam Lawson, as you say, still in Formula One, but now has the chance to prove everybody wrong and that they shouldn't have got rid of him so quickly. So there's real opportunities here if you try and look past the slam dunk brutality of it all. And while Lawson said he didn't expect to be dropped post-China, well, that is what happened. And on the other side of things, I caught up with Yuki Tsunoda a little earlier in the week, where he tells me exactly how the Red Bull move came about.
First call I got was from Christian, and I did meeting also in person. Was planned to go to Milton Keynes anyway for RB car simulator, and I heard expectation from him, what expecting from myself, and also what kind of team dynamics they're having. Basically, he said welcome to Red Bull Racing, and he was excited. Yeah.
Well, so what were those expectations that Christian Horner said to you?
Well, be close as much as possible to Max. You know, in the end, Red Bull Racing are focused to, Max to score a driver championship. You know, I mean, he proves himself enough to, be a good potential to be world champion, even though Red Bull seems a little bit struggling now. But, I'm sure they will develop the car as much as possible this year, and will be better end of the season. And also in that process, he wanted to help me to develop the car. I think he also mentioned the feedback I was giving to the team last in Abu Dhabi tests was really, really good. So he want me to continue that, but at the same time, as a performance, he want me to be close to Max as possible. So in order to, maybe some race, I can help him for the strategy. But also he promised me that, in some situation, if I able to be ahead of Max, he wouldn't necessarily ask me to swap the position and, let the team Max win. So, I mean, I think it's very fair, and I'm sure it won't be easy anyway to, straight away, beat Max, also I just have to get used to the car. So, but still I'm very excited.
We know this game is a brutal one. You mentioned, obviously, Formula One is full of politics. And I wonder, on the other side of things, have you been able to have a chat with Liam Lawson at all? Obviously, I know you two got on really well as teammates at Racing Bulls. He's still going to be there. You're doing the swap. Have you got a bit of sympathy for him as well?
I think for our relationship, I don't think hopefully as a friendship, we won't make anything, ruin or, get damaged. I think I felt it a little bit, to be honest, first half of the season this year. So we don't have friendship we used to have probably when we were fighting junior categories. But I think that's natural. We always fighting for the seat and, everything. So, but I know he's a funny guy, and I know how to make our relationship good. But just let's see how it goes. It's not easy, and I understand anything happened because, I mean, I was okay in the end this year. Start of this year, I was already switched to RB mode, Racing Bulls mode, to have success with that team. I was not trying to really affect our relationship. I mean, I understand both ways, and I hope we still have a good relationship.
Yuki Tsunoda speaking to me a little earlier, but unfortunately, while that was playing out out. There is a red flag during this practice session, and it's for a rather big crash for the Alpine of Jack Doohan, crashing in turn 1 and doing a lot of damage to his car. He is now gingerly got out of the car. He said he's okay on the radio, but he's clearly winded himself slightly and is being helped away by the marshals, but he's out of the car and has spoken on the radio. But there's a lot of damage done to that Alpine. We haven't seen exactly how it happened as he now makes his way towards the medical car. Doohan wasn't in the car for free practice 1. He handed the reins over to Japanese reserve driver Ryo Hirakawa, so was down on mileage anyway, and not even 10 minutes into the session, Alice, and Doohan has binned it into the wall rather heavily.
Yeah, and luckily he is able to get out with a little bit of help from the medical team. So we're just going to catch the replay now. Now looking at the replay, it seemed that he bottomed out, but riding on board, let's have a little listen in.
Oh, that just completely went on him.
Yeah.
As soon as he touched the brake, even slightly, it's a right-hander coming into turn 1, the rear just completely went round.
I mean, you turn in flat there, pretty much. So that has really either tyre temp or a failure of some sort.
It almost looks like a failure,
but that hit the barrier at some speed.
Mate, you all okay?
I'm okay, yeah. What happened?
We're just looking at everything on our side here.
I'll see if he touched the grass. I think he turned in possibly on the grass. We'll have to see an aerial shot of it if we get one, but he's very close to the edge of the grass there, so either that's what caused him to spin round, using a bit too greedy on the way in, but you could hear that he was winded. He had to sit there, catch his breath for a little bit, but that's a lot of damage, and the shots that we're just being shown was the medical team doing a great job getting to him as fast as they could, helping him out of that stricken Alpine. A wheel has totally ripped off the left-hand side, so the rear wheel has been sent down the gravel. Barrier repair, Harry, as well, so this is going to be quite a long red flag, but there's a whole flurry of marshals down there who always do a good job, but they'll be quickly to work to fix up that barrier so we can get the session back underway, hopefully.
Yeah, there is debris scattered everywhere, which will need to be cleared up, as well as the barrier work. And during practice, well, if it's a red flag, the clock continues to count down, so obviously Doohan misses out on vital track running, but so too does everybody else who has to make their way back to the garage then. So Jack Doohan suffering a big crash going into turn 1. He is out of the car, into the medical car, and making his way back for checks. But for the man who had to miss out on FP1, and for a man who is also, we talk about pressure when it comes to driver swaps and the Lawson Tsunoda situation, Jack Doohan isn't exactly a man that's got a free run of it. There is all sorts of talk before we even came into this season that he was only going to have 6 races before Alpine decide to put Franco Colapinto in, and we don't know if this was a failure. We need another look to see if he did put a wheel on the grass, but if it is a driver mistake, that is gonna be absolutely catastrophic for him and his future. Yeah,
that's an expensive repair bill for Alpine there, which of course they don't really need that either. Neither does any of the team on the grid, so that's going to be a lot. That's a long evening for the team down at Alpine. A lot of damage. The whole left-hand side of the car is totally ripped off. Effectively, you can see the radiators hanging down. The front wheels only been hung on by or attached by the tethers just, but the rear wheel has totally gone. So not ideal for them at all. And like you said, Harry, not ideal for the track time that is needed for Jack Doohan to really try and make the most of his weekend again. I'm quite surprised that they decided to take him out, seeing that he's the rookie at a brand new circuit. Okay, if it was let's say Spa or Barcelona, a track where he has done quite a lot of laps in F2 and F3, then it would have made more sense, but not here at Suzuka. But that's what the team felt that they needed to do, and unfortunately just his day has got even worse. So FP3, if he is out for free practice 3 tomorrow, then he's going to really have to try and make the most of it. But he did look very close to the edge of the grass. So we're getting an onboard replay again, going down the straight, just under the start-finish line. He'll pull over, and it looked like he moved over, and then slightly, potentially, as he turned in, he wasn't on the grass. But already, so this shot that we're seeing is an outboard shot, and it looks like...
I don't think he did put a wheel on the grass.
He was very close to the white line. I think he's touched
there's a
part
white line
of the grass,
there,
and then he's drifted back on the track. And of course, that wasn't enough time, but between that period of time to clean up the tyre. Again, it's really fine margins, and the camera angle's a bit too far away to see it. But regardless, that caught him massively by surprise, as it did the Alpine team. They're not even kind of quite sure as to what happened. So this is riding on board with Hadjar, and the incident's happened in front of him, so we're not going to be able to see.
Wow, big crash. Big crash, red flag. Oh my god.
That was what Hadjar had to say about it. All you could see from his onboard as the car coming up behind Doohan was the dust coming up from Doohan's car making contact with the gravel and then the barrier. But just to reiterate then, Jack Doohan out of the car, has spoken on the radio, and has made it into the medical car, and now being taken away for checks as the marshals get to work. The red flag is out. 43 minutes and 45 seconds left on the clock as we keep this session going. In the meantime, let's hear from the reigning world champion Max Verstappen.
Well, Max, what is your view then of the driver switch between Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda, and the management generally of this second Red Bull seat?
Yeah, I've discussed everything with the team, so the team knows how I think about everything, and I think that's enough, to be honest.
You can't tell us any of your general views?
It's not necessary. I mean, honestly, some bits we discussed, they don't always need to be told in public as well, because anything that you add, people start speculating about that as well, and I don't like to read about it.
Okay, we'll move to the car then. How tricky is this RB21 to drive? What are the characteristics that are proving difficult for yourself, but also for that driver in the second seat?
Well, I've been part of the team now for a long time, so for me it's always a bit more difficult, I think, to maybe judge, because I haven't really driven any other car. So naturally, I don't know how much more difficult or how much easier another car is, but I just drive to the limit of what I have, with the car, and that's that really. That it's not the easiest, probably, maybe. I think we always discuss things what we can do better on the car, and that's what we are working on currently as well.
How much support have you given Yuki and welcoming him into the team as well?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's not even about that. I know Yuki already for a long time because he's been part of the Red Bull family. So it's a very natural progression. Everyone always does their very best, to be successful in Formula One, and everyone deserves their chances. And I think the team has been working, of course, already quite well with him to prepare him in the best way possible, to start here.
Max Verstappen speaking ahead of the weekend to Laura Winter about that driver swap alongside him, and a lot of these talking points about the Tsunoda and Lawson swap, a lot of the drivers sympathising and saying it's not really what we want to see. They're happy for Yuki, but they're sad for Liam, and it highlights how tough this game is, and to come back to the situation we're in now under red flag because of Jack Doohan, one of the other rookies in the field, who has earned his spot in a racing seat, but already has to come under such huge pressure. It's so easy to forget that in Jack's case, he's only 22 years old. You're forced to grow up so quickly in this Formula One world now. Drivers getting younger and younger. And to go through a big crash like that, whether it is some kind of technical failure or not, to rebuild your confidence time and time again must be so difficult. To try and blend out all the noise from the world we live in social media and us talking about it. I don't know how a driver does it. You work with a lot of young drivers. This must be part of the sort of training you have to give them now.
It is, and the younger that you could start these young drivers to learn about it, the better. And I think young drivers in karting maybe take it for granted a little bit, because of course there's pressures as soon as you step foot and want to make a career or something. There's pressure to do well. You have to do well to move up the ladders, unless you have unlimited budgets where you can maybe skip a few series or buy yourself a team. But it's so hard, and of course there's pressure in Formula 4, Formula 3, Formula 2, but as soon as you step foot and get that seat in a Formula 1 car, there's an unreal amount of pressure, and some drivers of course deal with it so much better. Verstappen, he seems to deal with it very well. Of course we've seen him get a little bit hot-headed at times and do, you know, make silly errors or silly judgments, but then we've had the likes of Daniel Ricciardo, who we all know is a talent and probably the strongest teammate to go up against Max Verstappen, I would say. But look how it just sort of broke him in the RB seat, and then eventually, you know, the fallout with him, but in the Red Bull seat. So it can make or break your career. The tougher you are mentally, the more likely you will succeed. You have a much higher chance of succeeding. Talent is one thing. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you haven't got that mental stability, that mental toughness, then you will ultimately end up failing. And we're just going to see if he on the grass. The DRS is open.
So did that DRS rear wing close when he hit the brakes? The camera just cuts away, but I don't think he put a wheel on the grass. I think it was fine margin.
It was very close, but that onward shot, the DRS was open. So with usually in Formula 3, Formula 2, you would close the rear wing, the DRS, the drag reduction system. You'd close that before braking, moments before braking, just to allow the rear to settle a little bit. In Formula 1, they can get away with even cutting that margin even finer, just for the amount of grip and tyres and mechanical grip that's generated. But it still needs to be closed before you hit the brakes, before you enter the corner. And yeah, it looks like he was close to the grass on the edge there, but ultimately it did look like that DRS was open ever so slightly.
Well, we still wait for full confirmation exactly what happened. Of course, Alpine will get the car back, and we'll do a big analysis of that. There is still a lot of work going down to repair the barriers. Jack Doohan crashing in FP1, in FP2 in turn 1 in that Alpine. He is out of the car after a hefty crash. He said he's okay on the radio, looked a little bit tentative, had to have some help walking away from his car, and got into the medical car and is now being taken away for checks. But not an ideal session then for Alpine or for Jack Doohan, who didn't get any running in FP1 as a result of giving his car to reserve driver Ryo Hirakawa. Doohan actually, he's notching up some points, but and not the ones he wants. 4 penalty points he got in China over the course of the sprint and the Grand Prix for some of his racing action and manoeuvres. So he wasn't afraid to get his elbows out. But Alpine are currently the only team with no points on the board either. So it's been a really, really tough start for both of them. And Pierre Gasly, his best result so far has been 11th after Australia. Could have maybe got some points if he hadn't have been disqualified in China, but such was the case, the car was underweight. Yeah, fine margins, and those errors can end up costing big by the end of the season. Points make prizes, and they certainly do in the Constructors' Championship. So estimated time of session resumption is in around about 7 minutes time, so we've got a little bit of time to kill up to then, as fans are enjoy watching on. Variety of famous hats they all end up making, but also the marshals finishing their clear up down at turn 1. Yeah. Estimated time of start will be 3:30 local time, so that'll be 7:30 in the UK. So the clock continues to count down. 35 minutes and 54 seconds remaining of free practice 2. Expect a flurry of cars out to try and get some action in for the last half an hour of track action. But let's then use this time, Alice, to I just want to, because it's always so insightful. I'm not a driver, you are, and have raced with some of the guys coming up through the ranks who've made it to Formula One and those who've gone on to success in sports cars and such the like. And you yourself, you have to experience the harsh nature of what the sport is. And for a team like Red Bull, everybody is always so quick to go, how can you just cut a driver? How can you just basically ruin a driver's career? You know, I think of recent times like Danny Kvyat, for instance, who was sort of tossed about a bit through Red Bull, Toro Rosso, and then discarded, and his whole career gone like that, even though he was a pretty solid driver. But is the flip side of this actually that, well, okay, you may well end up having to be tossed aside at one point, but Red Bull gave you the chance in the first place. And, you know, I think there's about 6 or 7 drivers on the current grid who have all been a part of the Red Bull Junior program at some stage of their careers. So you can't deny that at least they get a better shot at the opportunity with Red Bull.
They've always been renowned for being brutal, the Red Bull Academy. I've got friends that have been on the Red Bull Academy in the past, and they've told me stories where they've had the Academy boss, or they've had even Helmut Marko sticking his head into the cockpit of their car. This is when they're racing F3 level, or if anyone that will remember World Series by Renault, which was kind of a rival championship really to GP2 or Formula 2 as it's now known, where he'll stick his head in the cockpit and say, right, if you don't finish in, let's say, 3rd place, if they're starting 6th or 7th, or if you don't win the race, this will be it. Your dream of being a Formula 1 driver will be over, and you will be out of our academy. And that's literally probably 3 minutes before they'll do the formation lap. You know, they're brutal, and that's again that mental resilience that you really need to have if you're stepping into motorsport, but certainly being part of the Red Bull program. They're known for being very harsh, and they're known for making some crazy decisions sometimes. And certainly, again, I'm one of those that doesn't agree with Liam not really being giving a fair shot. It's a brutal sport. It's a tough sport, but everyone knows that going up, putting a Red Bull suit on, that comes with not a lot of life expectancy if you're not performing the way they want you to.
Well, one person who knows a lot about that is Jaime Alguersuari, who you'll remember was a part of the Red Bull Junior team lineup from 2009 to 2011, raced for the Toro Rosso team. I caught up with him a little earlier this week to get his thoughts on what happened between the Tsunoda and Lawson swap.
To be honest, I think Yuki has nothing to lose, because everybody has been struggling in that seat. Everybody has been struggling to find the right setup, to understand how Max is doing it, to not to beat Max, of course, but at least to be a bit closer to Max. And I think Yuki has nothing to lose because he has a lot of experience. He came into Formula One and many people were doubting about him. He has developed himself. He did a decent season last year. I think he's a very competitive driver. He's very solid right now. And honestly, for me, it was quite clear that the man who had to go in that seat last year after the test in Abu Dhabi was Yuki. And they decided not to do it for whatever reason. And after 2 races, they changed their decisions. That demonstrates that whoever is taking the decisions at the moment is lost. They had the chance to sign Carlos Sainz, who was free at some point last year for a couple of months. They didn't want him because maybe Carlos is too quick. Maybe Carlos is putting Max into problems in some points, in some areas. But at the end of the day, you just try to look for the most competitive couple out there, like Charles and Carlos last year, who did a fantastic job, and their performance was super equal.
If Yuki does struggle as much as Liam did, what happens then?
I don't think so. I don't think Yuki will struggle as much as Liam. However, I think he will struggle. I don't think in 22 races Yuki would be able to beat Max in that car with those circumstances. I'd expect Yuki would improve his performance race after race. That's what we would have seen on Liam's side as well. It's just that they didn't give him time. I have no idea what they would do if Yuki is not performing well. I would say they tried someone else. I don't know, because nobody knows what's going on inside their system. Nobody and even them, they don't even know what's going on. They're lost. That's what I'm trying to say. They are lost, and the reason why they're lost is because they changed a driver after 2 races. Under which criteria you do that? You take a decision to do that. If the poor guy, you just didn't even give him the right time. He's not, we would have expected him to be half a second, 6/10 off the first 2 races. 1 race without knowing the track, on the humid conditions, wet conditions, with so many different tires and so very little margin, and the window for the tires to work is super small. It's so easy to not make them work, and to miss the chance of 3-4 tenths in the qualifying lap. So you just need experience and time,
Jaime Alguersuari, the former Toro Rosso Formula One driver, speaking to me earlier on in the week about his opinions on Red Bull's driver swap between Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson. Not packing any punches, his old Alguersuari. You can listen to the full chat with him on the Checkered Flag podcast, available on BBC Sounds and wherever you get your podcasts now, but maybe do it in about 29 minutes time after FP2 is finished, because it is back underway. We were under a red flag for a big crash for Jack Doohan's Alpine, and now the barriers have been repaired. Doohan walked away from that crash, but was a little bit tentative, and still there'll be investigations going into exactly what caused that crash, because it didn't look like a clear-cut driver mistake, but we'll have to analyse that a little bit more in depth as we progress. But 28 minutes and 33, 32, 31 seconds remain, and pretty much every car has been queuing up in the pit lane and making their way out onto the circuit. So, Alice, this really affects everybody's run plan now, because normally we'd probably be getting into the long run action now, but they haven't really had a chance to get some more short run simulations going in the start of this session. So they're really going to have to cram a lot in this last 28 minutes.
They are. It's going to be busy. We're going to see lots of laps being produced, quick turnaround of tyre changes. So majority of them at the moment look like they are and so Norris gets quite close to one of the Hasses that are going up the hill through the S's there, but a lot of them seem to be on the medium or the hard tyres. So this is their effectively could be their long run pace, just trying that out. But of course, qualifying is going to be at the same time as this free practice session tomorrow, so track conditions will be fairly similar. Okay, we've got a free practice session in between that, so the track you would think would be slightly better, but same type of time of day. So it's important that they get a soft tyre run. So what I expect that we will see is drivers doing their long runs now, and then quick turnaround in the box, change onto a set of soft tyres, and head out to see their light qualifying pace.
George Russell, before the red flag, set the fastest lap time of 1:29.666 on the hard tyre ahead of Hamilton, Alonso, Hadjar, Tsunoda, the top 5. Then it's Piastri, Lawson, Stroll, Hülkenberg and Antonelli, the top 10. Now this is the sound of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari ahead of his 150th Grand Prix start this Sunday, hoping to try and get that Ferrari onto the podium. His best result here has been third back in 2022, making his way round the outside onto the exit of Spoon Curve, negotiating his way past Kimi Antonelli and Ollie Behrman's Haas as he approaches down that long stretch towards the flat-out left-hander, over 300 kilometres an hour through 130R. Before you know it, you're hitting the brakes down through the gears into the right-hander that begins the Casio triangle. Sling it to the left, and the rear steps out slightly for Charles Leclerc. Has to be tentative on the throttle before he gets it back down again, and across the line for Charles Leclerc. Lost a lot of time in that final sector. We have got a yellow flag that has turned into a red flag. I think it might be Fernando Alonso, who looks like he's stuck coming into Degner 1. In between the two Degners has the Aston Martin driver found the gravel. He has indeed. He's facing the wrong way, and he is saying he is stuck, and he has beached that Aston Martin. So just as we were about to get properly going again, we have another red flag. Cue the Jaime Alguersuari clips. Let's go. But no, Aston Martin then having a troubled start to their year in Fernando Alonso's car, not even classified in the championship, having crashed out in Australia, retired in China. And indeed, the team, though, back in the garage, still happy to have a smile on their face despite seeing their main man getting out of the car and ending his free practice 2 session.
Yeah, he's beached in the gravel there, so he's hopped out, put the wheel back on. Some sad-looking Fernando Alonso fans watch on in their Aston Martin kit and Fernando Alonso hats as he jogs over to the side. This will be quite a short stoppage, but unlike qualifying and the race, is the time does not stop in practice, it continues to tick. So riding on board through with Alonso through 8, and yeah, maybe a little bit too much speed. He was actually on the soft tyre, so he was one of very few, actually possibly the only driver to be out on the soft tyre. And
he got onto the grass.
He did. He got onto the grass on the way in. That kicked the rear out ever so slightly as he asked for the car to turn into turn 8. And then with that quick correction, there's no room for error here. You're straight on into a barrier or straight through the gravel, or both in Jack Doohan's case.
Yeah, I missed back in turn 8. All good. Bit of bounce, something strange on the entry.
That would have been a bit of grass and dust kicked up Fernando on the entry there. So a rare mistake from Fernando Alonso, and he made an error, didn't he, in Australia, finding the barriers. So something we don't often see from the Spaniard.
When you're going through gravel at pace and you're being absolutely pelted, are you actually getting, is the gravel chiming on your helmet? Is it you getting a proper pummeling from this?
Yeah, you can be. And the last thing you're thinking at that moment in time is, oh no, the stone chips on my helmet. But you often get out and there'll be some in your boots, there'll be some in your suit, it'll be all in the cockpit, so the mechanics will have to take the seat out, give it a good hoover. But
have you ever had a gravel related injury? Or
only when I've been following a car and they've dipped a wheel in the gravel and then a stone has hit my knuckle. That's quite
something
sore.
very similar happened to Grosjean.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the only gravel injury that I have sustained. Hopefully no more to come.
Have you got a scar to show for it?
No gravel battle scar. I was going to say unfortunately, but I guess that's a good thing I don't have a battle scar, a gravel battle scar. But that'll be his session over. Helmet off for Fernando Alonso. He's being guided to safety by the Marshall team, and his car is pretty much removed now from the track. A bit of sweeping going on by the marshals. It's a very dusty Aston Martin as it'll be set down on a flatbed and out of the way, ready for the session to resume.
Yeah, and it's been a very stop-start session, mainly stop. I'm just trying to look at the lap count, and Charles Leclerc has done the most laps of anybody, but we're only on 7, and we've got 22 minutes and 10 seconds remaining of this session. So this puts really a lot of people on the back foot with their run plans, as we were saying when we've got going after the first red flag, the long run pace, which FP2 is often used to try and discover. Very much then having to cram as much in as they can and understand how these cars are working. We've got the first sector entirely resurfaced. We've got that change, as Andrew was saying at the start of the show, from the new tarmac to the old tarmac. How is that affecting the tyre life? There's so much learning to be done, and they're going to have less than 20 minutes to do it all in.
I mean, you could say in some sense it's great for us.
Great. Well, this is why we like sprint weekends, right?
It's a bit of an unknown. Yeah, well, exactly. It's a bit of an unknown for the teams when they go into the race and in qualifying. But of course, they have got free practice 3. But we could have something similar as Fernando Alonso's hitched a ride on a moped. He'll make his way back to the garage. All the fans, of course, rush to the fence to get a glimpse of Fernando, get their photos. Some probably screaming for him to sign autographs. But he's on his way now back to the pits, and by the time we probably get the session underway, as race control all looking on with their headsets on, communicating to the marshals, to the race directors. I guess we're going to have probably under 20 minutes left. It's 20 minutes 44 seconds of the session remaining.
Session will resume at 15:41 local time, so in a few minutes' time. So those fans that have come here to Suzuka absolutely packing out the grandstands for a practice day, always a good sign of a good attendance throughout the weekend. We'll get to see some more action before Friday is finished for the day, as Lando Norris just tried to peel out of his garage but was immediately told to stop because the traffic is there and he can't peel out until there is a clear route to go, and he didn't get his wheel over the first line in time to secure his position in the queue either. We haven't spoken, well, we were just chatting about Charles Leclerc as he was setting a lap time, one of the only ones to get a lap time in before that second red flag. Obviously a double disqualification for them last time out in China, not good news for two different reasons as well. Lewis Hamilton, though, I think he can still take a lot from that weekend, can't we? The absolute feat of winning the sprint, winning his first race for Ferrari, the scenes are incredible. The script was writing itself, but it's so easy to forget now after that actually he's still got so much to learn with this new team, this new car, his communications with his engineer. Can you try and sort of describe just what a mountain it is to climb when you switch teams and you're meeting everybody new again and building up a relationship with a whole new engineer? Of course, he's no longer with Bono.
No, that relationship between driver and engineer is so important. Effectively, they're the one that's the other end of the phone. When you're out there on your own, you're facing the challenges of racing and driving a Formula One car to the very limit. Certainly at tracks like Suzuka, where if you do make a mistake, like we've seen from Fernando Alonso just recently, it's game over and you're in the gravel. So they're the ones that you really have to trust. That relationship's so important, as George Russell has got fed up of trying to queue, but he's got his old mate Max Verstappen, who's weaving from left to right, thinking, stay in the queue like a British person.
Russell thinks it's the race.
Like queues, but he's found his way past Max Verstappen up through the first part of the S's. But it's so important, Harry. It's a very important relationship, and of course jumping in for Lewis and many of the drivers' Sainz, moving across from Ferrari to Williams. Not only do you need to get to know the team, but you also need to get to know the car and the characteristics and the differences between the previous race car that you have been driving. So riding on board, catching a replay of George Russell goes past Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari, and then Max, the wily old fox, Max Verstappen, spots George trying to come across the grass and quickly shuts the door firmly in his face, and he nearly did the same thing through turn 2, but George had already stuck his nose in there as he charges to try and get some clean air to the front of the queue, but he has got in front of him Charles Leclerc. So there's a little trio now that have made a gap of Leclerc and Russell, and then Gasly's just topping up behind them as well.
I understand that Lewis Hamilton building up his new relationship with the engineer is quite like today, because normally we have producer Joe, but we've actually got producer Jack for today. So we're building up a new relationship.
Producer Jack, if Joe is listening.
Oh, that's a bold call. But see, some people you just gel with more, don't you? You have that connection straight away.
He's offered us drinks, tea, coffee.
I know we're being well looked after today, aren't we, for free practice? But it is all about building up that relationship for Lewis Hamilton, but it was a tough pill to swallow for both Ferrari drivers after the Chinese disqualification, but let's hear from Lewis Hamilton and his thoughts ahead of this weekend.
I was at the factory with the team during the week, really impressed with how the team digested and worked through the analysis and figuring out ways of working better moving forwards. Better processes, and just hopefully make sure that doesn't happen again. And then coming here this weekend, I mean, every weekend I do with the team is a new experience, at a track that I've been to before, but obviously it's the first time in a Ferrari around this track, and I don't know what to expect in terms of how the car will feel necessarily, but I feel positive. Obviously I've got 2 races behind me now, and experienced the tyres, and like for example the C2 tyre, that we had in the last race. I hadn't actually driven that before, so finally got a race with that under my belt, and yeah, I feel positive coming to the weekend.
Feeling positive then for Lewis Hamilton. We've just seen replays of Jack Doohan making his way back from the medical centre, escorted by his team, with the photographers surrounding him. But good to see Doohan then walking away after being checked up after that big crash, which we'll keep looking into to see exactly what the reason will be. We haven't heard anything yet from Alpine as to the official cause of that, whether it was driver error or something else. But certainly there was enough intrigue to think it might be something else. But we await for confirmation on that. Some quick lap times coming in, courtesy of the soft tyre being put on. Lewis Hamilton has just gone fastest by less than half a tenth of a second, a 1:28.5 ahead of his old teammate George Russell. In fact, less than a tenth covers the top 4 drivers, and actually it's Isaac Hadjar who's just gone fastest in the Racing Bulls. So the track ramping up all the time. It's Hadjar, Hamilton, Russell, Leclerc, Verstappen, then it's Gasly, Bortoleto is 7th. All of those drivers putting the soft tyre on as Liam Lawson puts his Racing Bulls up into 3rd. So clearly, Alice, the track improving all the time now as they put on these Red Wall tyres to try and get an idea of some qualifying lap time simulations.
It is Oscar Piastri scrabbling for grip as he applied the throttle through the exit of turn 14, fastest of anybody in the middle sector, on the brakes down into 16, over the curbs in 17. McLaren didn't look comfortable over the curbs there in the previous session, and it didn't look comfortable there for Oscar Piastri. He does go up to 2nd in the times, but we await a time from Lando Norris, and there we go, up into top spot, 3.5 tenths clear of Hadjar, and then nearly 4 tenths clear of his teammates. So Norris feeling a bit more at home in the Papaya McLaren this weekend. Antonelli across the line to set his first time on the soft tyre, and another red flag.
Yeah, we got another red flag, and just trying to see on the driver tracker who that might be for. But I'm struggling at the moment to see if there is a car stopped out onto the circuit. But I think the grass is on fire. We saw this in China last year with... I think sometimes, yes, it's on turn 8, so that's coming through, that's the exit of the Degna 1, and the smoke is coming from the grass as the McLarens of Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris make their way past. What is going on in Japan this afternoon? It's exactly like it was in China last year. Now, we saw this when it came to the resurfaced track as well, but it's on the grass stuff. It's actually on the exit of Dunlop as they're coming towards the first Degna, and it is well off the track but on the grass, and there is a bit of orange flame coming from it as well.
Yes, unless something's flown off a car and set it the grass alight, but that is actually burning quite nicely now. So we're going to have a bit of a replay. It could be a spark that has ignited it, because when the cars go through Dunlop curb, which is it's turn 7, and then on the exit we're catching some replays. A lot of the cars are sparking, so the T-tray effectively underneath the car is hitting the ground. The marshals are there. That fire spread quite quickly,
and that is a particularly dry. That was a much sort of yellow. More yellow patch of grass compared to the green out beside it. So yeah, exactly, much drier. So the marshals straight on it with the extinguishers.
I think it may possibly a spark.
Yeah,
has just made contact with the grass there, and like I said, very dry grass, set it alight potentially. But we're stoppage again, 3rd stoppage. Norris top of the times at the moment, but I don't think many of them actually set a decent lap on the soft tyre. Did Verstappen get one in, Harry? He's half a second off Lando Norris.
I think Verstappen may have just got one in, but he's only done 6 laps in total. So he was on an out lap because it was George Russell who overtook him on the exit of the pit lane. But it was Norris who managed to get the fastest lap time of them all, 3 tenths ahead of Hadjar. Then Piastri 3rd, Hamilton 4th, Lawson 5th, Russell, Leclerc, Verstappen 8th ahead of Gasly, Hülkenberg, Bortoleto 10th and 11th. Then comes Sainz and Ocon, who all got laps in. Ocon 13th, Antonelli 14th on the soft tyre. Fernando Alonso out of the session. So I'm pretty sure everyone up to Antonelli got a lap time in. So Tsunoda did not. Stroll, Behrman, Albon, the remaining cars left in this session. Jack Doohan and Fernando Alonso out of the session. So we're 2 cars now down to 18 with 10 minutes and 44, 43, 42 seconds remaining on the clock. It is a 3rd red flag in this free practice 2 session. The first one being for Jack Doohan's Alpine with a rather spectacular crash going into turn 1. The car absolutely totaled. Thankfully, Jack Doohan out of the car. We've now seen him walking back through the paddock, helmet off, taking a sip of his drink and surrounded by his team as further investigations go on as to what happened to Jack Doohan. The second red flag was caused by Fernando Alonso finding the gravel on the exit of Degner 1 and beaching his Aston Martin. And the third red flag caused by grass catching fire just off the Dunlop curve. I feel like this is very
good for a quiz one day.
There were 3 red flags in FP2 and the Japanese Grand Prix in 2025. Can you name the reasons for them?
Yeah, there we go. We'll add
very
that
niche,
into our,
very
if
niche.
we ever take up pub quizzes or wherever else you can do quizzes. Not that I participate in.
Do you not like a nice pub quiz? Monday night pub quiz? I
usually just get them the answers wrong. So.
Oh no, Monday night pub quiz always round my local every time.
Your local's quite far from my local, so.
That is true. Yeah.
Unless there's a way.
What would your pub quiz team name be? That's always. What would it be?
I don't know.
Come on.
What would yours be?
I think my last pub quiz team name, because I tend to wear a lot of shackets, we were called the Shackets. So, you know, it was real imagination on that one.
Oh, you must have been exhausted after thinking of that name. Had to have a lay down after all the pints at the pub. But there you go. You could be quiz master and also join in with making. Oh,
here's a quiz for you. Here's a quiz for you. Can you name all the drivers in the Red Bull system that were dropped from Formula One at some point?
Officially, like halfway through a season, or
no, I think that'd be too tricky. I just think all the drivers that were generally dropped, which is pretty much everybody that didn't go on to achieve a world championship or
so retirement
multiple race wins.
Count.
No, go.
Okay.
I'll tell you.
Liam Lawson.
You get tick. Yeah, Liam Lawson. Yeah.
Gasly, Perez. Does he count?
Yeah, Perez counts. Gasly counts.
Albon.
You can have Albon. Yes.
Alguersuari.
You can have good old Jaime Alguersuari.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kvyat.
Danny Kvyat.
Does Ricciardo count?
Ricciardo counts.
Buemi.
Sebastian Buemi. Very good.
Just trying to think who else has been in. Scott Speed.
Yes, Scott Speed.
I mean, Webber, he retired, didn't he?
No, you can't have Webber, I'm afraid. I'm looking for 1, 2, 3, 4 more names, please. And then the session will get underway. Well, I mean, it is about to get underway anyway.
Yeah, we could be here for a while.
No, you've got just over 30 seconds.
Nationalities of these?
French. One of them.
I feel like I'm missing some very obvious, and people are shouting at their radios now, going,
come on. I mean, what time? It's coming up to 8 o'clock in the UK. So hashtag BBC F1. Which ones has Alice missed out? I would like your comments in before the end of FP2 in 7 minutes' time.
Anymore. I'm just going to be sat here. You're going to say, "What do you think of that?" And I'm trying to think of dropped Red Bull drivers.
Dropped Red Bull drivers. So we've had Scott Speed, we've had Sebastian Bourdais, we've had Jaime Alguersuari, Sebastian Buemi, Danny Kvyat, Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, Daniel Ricciardo, Sergio Perez, and Liam Lawson. I am looking for 1, 2. Actually, I'm looking for 3 more names according to my list. So in 6 minutes and 50 seconds, I want those names, please, from either you, Alice, or hashtag BBC F1.
I could just use Google, but I'm not going to cheat because you're not allowed to do that in quizzes, right? No. I feel like you cheat at the pub quiz.
No, you have to put your phone in a little box so you can't touch it.
I feel like you cheat some other way.
Session's back underway, but the real important stuff is finding those 3 drivers, just so you're aware. Hashtag BBC F1. 6 minutes and 27, 26, 25 seconds remain. what should be a fairly frantic push to the flag for FP2. It's Lando Norris with the fastest time, having managed to get some soft tyre running in that small window before the third red flag of the session, caused by the grass catching fire. We think maybe due to the dry grass and sparks coming from the underside of several cars. Lando Norris, Hadjar, Piastri are the top three. I tell you, those Racing Bulls, once again, are looking rather nifty.
They are. I mean, there was quite a few drivers that didn't set a representative lap time on the soft tyre due to red flag, but good for Lawson. He is only about half a tenth behind Hadjar, which is closer than what he was. 0.3 he was off for him in the previous session. Piastri, he'll be slightly happier, closer to Lando Norris. The gap, I think, was over a second in the first free practice session. George Russell riding on board with him. What's he up to again? He's up behind, is that a Ferrari in front of him? He's trying to make his way through, coming into Degner. Oh, he was having a look down the inside of Charles Leclerc, who thought, nope, you are not going past here. Door firmly shut in his face, and he gets a kick of oversteer. Does he get him going into the hairpin? Let's have a little look. No. So Russell's on a move. He wants to be ahead of the field today. He did eventually get past him, looking at the driver tracker, so he's going to have free and clean air to make the most of this session. He's on the medium tyre compound, and Charles Leclerc was actually on the soft tyre.
Yeah, George Russell pushing like it's race day, but it's just practice day, but clearly keen to get some running in. Hashtag BBC F1. I tell you what, morning everyone. It is lighting up, I'll tell you that. And actually, there's a couple of names that I forgot, so it's gone up.
So your quiz is wrong anyway.
I know, it's gone up from 3 names to more. We've had, thanks to Bernard, Ira, Kieran, Robert, Jane, Luke, Lauren, you're all getting them correct. Initially I was looking for Jean-Eric Verne.
Oh, how can I forget him? He's in Formula E now, yeah.
Brendan Hartley.
Yes, the Aussie.
Kiwi. Yeah, get that right.
I'm going to be in
Nick
trouble
De
now.
Vries. He did 10 races for what they called back then, AlphaTauri. Yeah.
Oh, well, I was thinking more
pal.
Red Bull, not AlphaTauri.
But that was the Red Bull
no,
junior
but you
team.
said like Red Bull as in the main Red Bull
No, but
team.
you were saying Bohemian, Alguersuari. I'm not having any of that. But there's more. There were more. Because, of course, how could you forget the early days? Tonio Liuzzi.
Yes.
Christian Clean.
Oh, Christian Clean.
Yeah. And special points for those who got this. Ira got this. Chris got this. Sebastian Bourdais. Well done, everyone. Do we include Robert Dornbos? Possibly.
But Piastri's just gone fastest.
We have different priorities at this point, I think, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
3 minutes. Well done, everyone. Thanks for getting in touch. Hashtag BBC F1. I think we pretty much got them all in the end. So good morning as well. Thanks for joining us.
What's the prize?
The prize is pride. That's what it is.
Okay.
The prize is pride and helping us get to the end of this free practice 2 session, which is starting to get very busy in these closing stages after 3 red flags. If you're just joining us this morning, it has been a rather truncated free practice 2 session and made FP1 look like an absolute dream. Lando Norris was quickest in FP1, and it's currently his teammate Oscar Piastri who is fastest out on the track. We've had 3 red flags. The first was for a big crash for Jack Doohan. He is okay and out of the car. The car is not so good, and there will be investigations going on as to what exactly happened there. There is suspicion that maybe there was a car fault, but we cannot confirm that in this current stage. Fernando Alonso beached his car in the Aston Martin in between Degner 1 and 2 in the gravel, so that brought out the second red flag, and the third red flag was for the grass catching fire on the exit of Dunlop curve. So that brings us up to speed with 2 minutes and 4 seconds remaining. It's Piastri, Norris, Hadjar, Hamilton, Lawson, the top 5, Russell, Leclerc, Verstappen, Gasly and Carlos Sainz, the top 10.
Just going back to the Doohan incident, I wonder if actually, as Max Verstappen gets all out of shape on the exit of 17 on the medium tyre, I wonder if it could also actually still be driver error, because he could have not closed the DRS himself.
I thought when you hit the brake it just automatically closed.
But if you're turning in there flat, then it's your responsibility to close the DRS. So could potentially be that it was driver error, but we'll have to wait and see what Alpine come out with, or what information that we can find, as Max Verstappen nicely over the first curb, and then, as I just said, got all out of shape on the exit of the second curb.
Yeah, well, in terms of that Do and Alpine update, you can stay tuned to the BBC Sport website for updates on that once we get to the close of the session. Here is Verstappen on the radio.
It's like Fernando from the steering everywhere.
And we know Max Verstappen likes a lot of front end, and clearly not feeling comfortable at all in his Red Bull. Hadjar out on the medium tyre, currently sitting in third place, 4/10 adrift of Oscar Piastri at the top of the times. And on Tsunoda watch, because we've been talking about him a lot, and a lot of eyes will be on him. He's down in 18th, but he's yet to set a time on the soft tyre. Is he out on the soft tyre at the moment? No, and we have another red flag, I think.
Yeah, our timing screens are lighting up red, and the graphic on the screen confirms it. And so Isaac Hadjar, which is the car we were following, immediately lifts off the pace in this because more grass is on fire. So this will end the session because there's only 3 seconds left anyway. So the clock will count down and everyone will come back to the pits. And that's coming into turn 17. It looks like the smoke is coming off. That's further round. No, it's not turn 17. I think that's coming into the
that's coming
Spoon.
to 11.
It's coming to Spoon, isn't it?
Or is it going into...
Or is that the hairpin? I think it's Spoon, yeah, it's Spoon. It's coming into Spoon, and that is quite a big patch of fire
quickly,
there. Yeah. So the marshals will want to get on that quickly, and that will cause some concern going into tomorrow as well. Conditions expected to be fairly stable across the weekend. There is the potential of rain on Sunday, but at the moment, doesn't look like the forecast that will fall around race time. So this will be something to watch on for the Japanese Grand Prix officials, and the FIA will certainly be looking into this after this session, which has now come to a close under red flag conditions. And it's the McLarens on top. Oscar Piastri fastest, ahead of his teammate Lando Norris. Isaac Hadjar third for Racing Bulls. Then it's Hamilton. Liam Lawson in his first race back with Racing Bulls, now fifth ahead of Leclerc, ahead of Russell. Leclerc seventh, then Verstappen, Gasly and Sainz the top 10. Alex Albon 11th, ahead of the two Saubers of Hulkenberg and Bortoleto. Esteban Ocon 14th, ahead of Ollie Behrman 15th. Kimi Antonelli 16th. Fernando Alonso 17th, Yuki Tsunoda 18th, Lance Stroll 19th, and Jack Doohan 20th after crashing out early doors. Fernando Alonso didn't get to see all that he had either, and the likes of I think Antonelli, Tsunoda towards the back as well didn't quite get to see their final soft run pace, so electing to focus perhaps more on the long runs in the limited running we had in this session. And that really was a truncated session, wasn't it, Alice?
That was a very strange session, a variety of red flags in there, but drivers have made their way back to the pits, not allowed to do any practice starts because it's under red flag conditions, as they all practice their pit entry, coming in hot, then pulling in, doing a practice pit stop, which is not just for the mechanics but also for the drivers as well, to make sure they hit their marks nicely. But that's the end of the session, and disappointment for Jack Doohan and the Alpine team. They'll hope to be able to get his car all fixed up for tomorrow, but delight for Oscar Piastri. Sorted his problems out from free practice one as he climbs out of his McLaren.
Yeah, the team McLaren's looking strong, just coming back to do it. I mean, obviously there's the physical side that we want to see him recover from a crash like that, but again, from the mental side, hopefully they can get that car rebuilt, but then he's got to get into it in FP3, and he's got to go full send once again to get up to speed. That's a lot of new parts. We're at the beginning of a triple header already. That is stress inducing for him and the whole team.
Yes, there's a lot of stress, a lot of work that everybody in the garage has got to do. They do a great job, and his first push lap at the start of the session, because he had done one push lap, was within pretty much the identical time to Pierre Gasly. So he started off the session very well. Okay, his session was very short-lived. 4 laps he had on the board, but he's got to go in and tomorrow, if they get the car all sorted for free practice 3, and be on it as quickly as possible. If it is a simple error, So it's a simple error, it's a big error. If it is the DRS that has either failed or he hasn't closed it himself, then that will be, I would say, probably give him a little bit in confidence in the sense that it wasn't something totally unexpected, as in everything was perfect, he just lost the rear. So yeah, for his sake, he'll be hoping that it is something like that, where he knows that actually, okay, the car was stable, it was only just because the DRS was open, drag reduction system. He had no downforce. Lewis Hamilton, 4th place, just ahead of Liam Lawson, climbs out of his Ferrari, unplugs the radio, unplugs his drink, and he's done for the day, but not really, because these drivers will still have media and a lot of data to analyse.
Yeah, they will have to talk to the likes of us, and then of course we'll begin the debriefing sessions in the engineering rooms to try and continue to tweak these cars and find that setup ahead of free practice 3 tomorrow, which you can join us for on 5 Sports Extra, on BBC Sounds and on your smart speaker. Will be on air. It's early start, but it should be worth it. 25 past 3 in the morning ahead of 3:30 green light, and then it will be qualifying as well. You can join us for that 6:55 ahead of a 7 o'clock start for qualifying. Thanks to Alice Powell, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris fastest at the end of Friday. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.